What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. We're not even going to talk about the Chargers game last night, but for those who did put Chargers +3 or Chargers money line, we are very sorry. And anyone who put the Chargers Raiders under 34.5, again, I am very sorry. It was just an ugly game. I don't even know what else to say. The Chargers just did not show up. They just fired Brandon Staley not even like 10 minutes ago. So it's pretty evident that that was going to be Brandon Staley's last game. Honestly, it's pretty evident that, it's pretty key that Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen are pretty big factors for that offense for the Chargers because Austin Eckler tried. He wasn't getting anything going. Easton Stick, he's not good. He's not good. He's not good at all. And the Raiders pass rush was just getting to him all day. I mean, was it 4 fumbles, the pick 6, the fumble recovery? It was a defensive clinic for the Raiders. They cashed the over themselves in the first half, putting up 42 at halftime. It was just an ugly game from the get-go. Chargers, put up 21 points, but it was already over
Chris
when that
Paul.
happened. Yeah, exactly. As soon as I saw the Joshua Palmer 79-yard touchdown, all I just think was, oh, that's a Chris Paul moment right there. And then Furman +7. I mean, I don't even know if I want to call this a win because I saw the final score and it was not pretty. If you did not know what happened,
It was a push, right?
yeah, it was a push because it. So if you didn't know what happened, I thought the game was over when Furman hit that through with 0.8 seconds left to go up by 3, but I didn't know they fouled to Tulane. And then they forced overtime, and then obviously Furman lost by exactly 7. So you can't even write that. Like, Furman was looking great all game. They were down by 16 early in that game. The reason they were losing is because they were turning over the ball. I mean, they were out rebounding. They were out rebounding Tulane on the road, which was really impressive. They were pretty much giving to them. They were shooting about the similar percentage, like pretty much what I was saying about maybe 17. Maybe 17, maybe about 50% from 3, which was really good for both teams. But the killer was the turnovers. And Furman, I think, turned over the ball, I think around 20-ish times compared to Tulane, maybe about 10. But Furman did out-rebound. But when you have stuff like this happen, when you have a three-pointer, and I saw the 3 go in, and I was like, okay, this is game over. They won the game. And then all of a sudden I check the box score and it's 117, 110. And I'm like, what happened? So I knew both offenses were going to show up. I mean, the fact that both scored over 110 in a college basketball game, yes, with overtime, is pretty incredible. I mean, they scored 90 in regulation, which was pretty evident. Both of these defenses are really, really bad, but the offenses, are going to be very scary in March. So, Furman should have been a win, but you know what? At least they didn't lose by more than 7. And then, okay, Chargers, Raiders. We're moving on, Ari.
Yeah, like Chris said, it was over in the first quarter. Basically, like you could tell, like the way Aiden O'Connell was, kind of dicing up the Chargers secondary too. I thought, against the zone of the Raiders that Easton Stick could do, but when O'Connell made his debut, I think it was week 4 or something like that. When Khalil Mack had 6 sacks against him, I thought the Chargers would get to him again, but they were like doubling and sometimes even like it seemed like triple teaming Khalil Mack all game. And so then at that point it was non-existent the passage for the Chargers, and then all the turnovers and everything went wrong. But 1-1 Kings held on against the Thunder. It was pretty back and forth for most of the game. The Kings had a pretty good lead for most of the fourth, and then the Thunder kind of came back and cut it to I think it was like 119, 117 with like a few minutes left. But the Kings still held on at home, and they were able to light the beam at home.
Yeah, like I said, Chargers money line +3. We're just gonna wash that away. That may be one of the worst, but like you said, I mean, it was over in the first quarter. Aiden O'Connell was pretty much Dyson throughout that Chargers defense. We saw his deep passes, and you mentioned last time the Raiders played the Chargers, Khalil Mack had 6 sacks, and they were double triple teaming and pretty much pass protecting Aiden O'Connell the best that they could, and then going To the Kings, that was definitely a nice win at home. It was definitely a little bit sweaty. SGA had a great game, 41 points, I believe, or I forgot how many he finished with, but over 40 points as well. Signature game for SGA, but Kings obviously getting the win at home. Fox with another great game, 40 at home. So the Kings at home, may be one of the better teams just because of that home court advantage. And as Ari and I mentioned, it's not as prevalent in the NBA, but when you have the Kings who have kind of rejuvenated their franchise and now all of a sudden they're a playoff team with contention. The Kings money line might be a home wagon for the future of the NBA. But we're gonna get into today and obviously this weekend. We don't have much for today. Today, I only have two plays, and both in college basketball. Going into the game of the night, of course, when I'm not in Seattle, this game is in Seattle. Beautiful, but it's UConn Gonzaga. This is in Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, so this is a neutral site, and I am taking Gonzaga plus 4.5. And you can say it's a neutral site, but UConn's got to go all the way from Connecticut, and Gonzaga, that's just a 4-hour trip from the pass. Like that's nothing. Like it's a 4.5-hour flight. Plus for UConn, it's a 4.5-hour drive. There's home court advantage easily. I like this Gonzaga team. That line's been going down the wrong direction too. I feel like EK versus Donovan Clingan is going to be one of the bigger matchups inside. I don't think Gonzaga's really been tested with EK just because they haven't had anyone who can match that size. And I feel like this is going to be a great test for him against Clingan. And even though UConn is the better team and they're showing that in this neutral court, that line is going down. And I think this neutral court is going to play in Gonzaga's favor. Obviously, they play a lot better when they're in Seattle in terms of those neutral court games. We've seen it before. I believe one of the historic games against Alabama the other excuse me, I think it was last year or the year before where Alabama won and they were, I think, the number three team in the country. And, this is another top 10 matchup. I like this Gonzaga team to really bounce back, and also kind of make a statement because a lot of them have been talking, about, the bigger teams like Baylor, UConn, obviously Arizona, Purdue, but no one's really mentioning Gonzaga. And obviously, they haven't had, the most amazing start, and that's maybe just because of the fact that they look different, but I do like them in this spot against a really, really good UConn team. This is going to be the first of many fantastic college basketball games pretty much this week and this weekend. So I'm taking Gonzaga plus 4.5 in this neutral court game. The fact that they're giving Gonzaga, I thought they were going to give Gonzaga maybe a little more credit, maybe plus 2.5 or 3, but they're getting that plus 4.5. I think that's a little too much. I think this is going to be one of the better games of the season. Obviously, top 10 matchup, and on a neutral court, I think that plays pretty precedent to that. So I'm taking Gonzaga plus 4.5. They could win outright, but the defensive presence of UConn could be a little too much for Gonzaga. But Mark Few and Dan Hurley, that's going to be one of the that's a great coaching combination right there. So give me Gonzaga plus 4.5. Then going to the Battle of New Mexico, I'm taking New Mexico minus 14.5. This is a very personal game. If you don't know the story about it, obviously last year there was a bunch of things going on with New Mexico State. There was a shooting. Some people got injured. There was a lot of investigation. And this was around the basketball team. And this game did get canceled last year. And now that this is coming back again, I like New Mexico in this spot, minus 14.5. This is personal, people. This is a personal bet. I know New Mexico is going to be the better team. New Mexico State is not that good anymore. They lost a lot of talent. Like I said, this New Mexico team is going to be a wagon for us all year. They're going to be one of the scariest teams out in the Mountain West. They play great basketball. They have Jalen House, one of the better players in college basketball that I think personally. And I just think this is a great spot for them. Obviously, it's a road environment and, rivalry game, but this is a personal game for New Mexico because a lot of off the court issues are playing and they remember. I 100% know they remember. And this is going to be at New Mexico State, obviously on the road and, that huge environment. I think New Mexico comes out and makes a statement, especially getting near, Mountain West play where it's not going to be easy, obviously having to play Colorado State. You mentioned Utah State earlier this week, Boise State, one of the better defensive teams in the country. So I like New Mexico to finish off their non-conference league with a big win tonight against their in-state rival, New Mexico State. So give me Gonzaga plus 4.5 and New Mexico minus 15. I think they won by 20 plus. It's going to be personal and it's going to be ugly in New Mexico State. But Ari, if you have anything on this very, very small Friday, what do you got for us?
Yeah, just one NBA play for me. The Raptors. It's a rematch. These two teams played. Atlanta and Toronto played just 2 days ago, and the Raptors won, and usually I don't take when it's a back-to-back. I usually don't take the same team to win back-to-back games against the same team, but just home court for the Raptors kind of isn't enough for me to lean their way here. It's definitely not a super strong play for me, and what's not the best slate overall. But I do lean towards Toronto. I wasn't on this game when they played a couple of days ago, but I thought Toronto might bounce back from their loss the game before. But yeah, I just like the Raptors to get the job done at home. They're a 2-point favorite, just taking them on the money line. When these two teams played, Trae Young had a huge game with 17 assists and 35 points. But I just think the Raptors just starting to lineup is better all in all, and they're a little bit deeper as well. And then again, home court. Even though both teams were in Toronto, or I think we're in Toronto, so it's not like Atlanta have to travel for this game because they're they obviously stayed in Toronto. But home court, I like Toronto here. I think they're the better. They're in a better spot right now. Both teams have been struggling. I think they both had a 4-game losing streak entering Wednesday. So now Atlanta, I think, has lost 5 in a row, and then Toronto, even though they won on Wednesday, they're still struggling a bit as of late. But I lean towards Toronto here at home.
I think we're going to keep going with this wagon. I mean, we did it yesterday with the Kings, just like 2-point favorites at home, just taking straight up on the money line, in that matchup. And then going back to today, it's a back-to-back. And like you said, you don't usually like, taking the same team twice. But, I just think this Raptors team is playing a lot better. You mentioned, the fact that one, it is home court. And then two, obviously, the Raptors have the better depth. They have the better team, whatnot. So I like the Raptors tonight on the money line, -130 at home. This is obviously, no in-season tournament, no nothing. So this is just, for the NBA standing. So I like the Raptors. Give me that -1. Give me the Raptors -130 tonight. But we're going to get into what y'all really have been waiting for. The big weekend ahead of us. We have bowl games. We have a top 3 matchup in college basketball. And we have the NFL. But first, I'm going to get into some bowl games. And I'm going to go first to – I forgot what bowl the game is. I don't know the bowl games. I'm just looking at the teams. So if I don't know specific names of bowls, don't flame me. But I'm taking Cal. I'm taking them +3 against Texas Tech. I like this Cal team. They've been playing really, really hot, as they got toward the end of the season. Then they want to finish the season hot. Obviously, Jaden Ott is the reason. And yesterday, his big announcement that he is returning to Cal kind of made it precedent for me. That was my biggest question, is Jaden Ott going to enter the portal? And if he is he going to play? But now that he's not even entering the portal and he's committing to Cal, and he is pretty much one of the best running backs in the country right now. I like Cal +3. We saw how Texas Tech got absolutely embarrassed by Texas to finish the regular season. Just did not have any momentum in Cal. They've been pretty much trying to play themselves into the bowl game, so great for them. And I like them in the spot +3. I think they're just going to control the game on the ground with Jaden Ott. That's kind of how they've been doing that all season. And the 6-6 team, I mean, yes, it's not the prettiest bowl game, but I like Cal +3 in the spot. I think they just control the ball with Jaden Ott, run the clock down. This is the last game of the season for both of them before they get into before Cal gets into ACC play, whatever that's going to be like. But give me Cal +3 in what should be a very, very slow game offensively for Texas Tech. Their offense has not been, one of the big things. I believe Tyler Shuck has entered the portal, if I'm not mistaken. So, Texas Tech already missing some key guys, due to the portal. But I like Cal +3 in this big game tonight, and then tomorrow night, and then UCLA Boise State in the, I believe, is this the Gronk Bowl or is it the LA? I don't know what they're calling it now, but the LA Bowl, I'm pretty sure. And I'm taking UCLA -3.5. I think Boise State, a lot of that Boise State talent has entered the portal, and UCLA, like I said, they've had a rough end of the season because UCLA, we talked about this team, they were one of the top teams in the country, at the beginning of the season, and they were really prevalent on their defense. And now that their offense has pretty much been the thing that's been kind of holding them back, they really haven't gotten any momentum going. And I think that may be prevalent against a Boise State team that is down, I believe, 3 quarterbacks. I think they're 4th string guys. So if UCLA cannot beat Boise State with their 4th string quarterback, I'll put my hands up right now. So I'm taking UCLA +3.5. I think this is going to be a defensive clinic. And obviously, it is pretty much a home game for them because it's in LA and it's the LA Bowl. So I think UCLA fans may show up tomorrow. We'll see. There's very few of them, but I like UCLA minus 3.5. I think this is going to be just a defensive clinic. I think Chip Kelly, goes out in the Pac-12 with a win before they go to the Big Ten. So I like UCLA minus 3.5, and then going. I was fading New Mexico State for college basketball, but not for college football. We're taking them minus 3.5 in their bowl game against Fresno State. I forgot what bowl game they're in as well, but I like them at minus 3.5 against Fresno State. Look, this New Mexico State team is very sneaky. They played a great game against Liberty in that CUSA championship. Played it very close, and then just obviously, that home field advantage did play prevalent, and Liberty did get the win to defeat New Mexico State, but the reason I'm taking New Mexico State in this, I think they're undervalued here. I think Fresno State is obviously a little bit better defensively, but when you look at this New Mexico State team and how much offense they provide, just how talented they look, and they played a really close game. I think they want to finish the season strong. They've been one of the sneakier teams. They've been playing a lot better on the road as well. Through adversity. A lot of people did not believe them. This team beat Auburn on the road, for God's sakes. Like, are we forgetting that? This New Mexico State team beat Auburn at Auburn. That is an incredible feat. And I like them in this spot minus 3.5 against Fresno State. Fresno State, not great offensively. They did lose a lot. Jay Kaner obviously gone. And, throughout that Mountain West Conference, they didn't really get anything. They didn't really get anything going. Very middle of the pack team, obviously finishing behind, Boise State, UNLV, San Jose State, who had a great end of year run, pretty much winning out to be bowl eligible. I like New Mexico State.
Yeah, so I'll move on to my best bets for the weekend. I'll start off with Arizona over Purdue. The line opened at Purdue as a 1.5-point favorite, which doesn't shock me because it's basically a home game for Purdue. I think it's at the Pacers Arena, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm starting with Arizona. Obviously, you have Zach Edey, who's the big name on either team. But I think where Arizona has the big advantage here is in the backcourt. Arizona's defensively has been really, really solid defensively in the backcourt. Kylan Boswell, and then Caleb Love is actually, most obviously know him as more of a pure, scorer and shooter from UNC. But for Arizona, he leads the team in assists, and he's been really, really good defensively as well. I think he's really locked into the system of Tommy Lloyd defensively. So that's where I think Arizona has the big advantage is in the backcourt. Obviously you're not going to shut down Edey, but I think this is a game where Edey can score 30 plus, and Arizona still has the depth to withstand that and still take it. It's going to be interesting to see with foul trouble if they can get him in foul trouble, if he gets Umar Ballo in foul trouble. But Arizona has 3, 4, 7-footers that can at least contain him as best as anyone can. Obviously, no one's going to shut him down, completely unless you get him in foul trouble early. So we'll see how that kind of plays out with, foul trouble and all that. But I just think Arizona has they have the better bench and the better depth, better backcourt. So I'm taking them here. There's no line out for the money line yet. It's just the 1.5 spread. But I think, 1.5 plus 1.5 would be plus 110, something like that for the money line. So I'm doing that for Saturday afternoon. Staying on Saturday, Colts over the Steelers. Colts coming off. They
lost to the Bengals.
Yeah, they lost to the Bengals. Oh, yeah. I spaced out for a second. But, yeah, they're still right. They're still they're not just the wild card race, but even the division now with C.J. Stroud, concussion, probably being out this week. If the Texans lose to the Titans and they win, they'd be, I believe, tied for the division lead, if I'm not mistaken. So, obviously, it means a lot for them. Also, the Steelers, too. They're still in the playoff race as well. I think they're maybe right now the 6 or 7 seed, but Trubisky, coming off the loss again. I think they've lost 2 straight or 2 of 3 to 3 lost teams, the Cardinals and then the Patriots, or 2 lost teams, or maybe 2 lost teams. So I'm just taking the Colts here at home on Saturday, one of the 3 Saturday games. And then moving on to Sunday, Bills coming off their, emotional win over the Chiefs, obviously, and the Cowboys, crushing the Eagles. Both big wins for both teams. I think Buffalo at home. I mean, obviously, both teams want to win. The Cowboys want to win to try to still fight for the number 1 seed division, all that. But the Bills are literally fighting for their lives, for the season in the wild card. I think they opened up as a favorite for a reason. I think, even though it's in Buffalo, I think, coming off Dallas, it's a huge win over Philly. Most would think Dallas will still be at least a short favorite, considering the records and all that. But I like the Bills at home. They have the advantage not just being at home, but also, maybe weather being in their favor a little bit because they're more used to playing in the cold as well, and that weather as well. So just give me Arizona and the Colts on Saturday, and then right now Bills on Sunday.
First off, if someone's car was going off, I can't control that. But I was finishing off saying New Mexico State should win. But I will have another full card with college basketball and football for Saturday and Sunday as well on Twitter. But going to Ari's picks, look, Arizona, I think they win this game tomorrow as well. I think that backcourt for Purdue is a little overrated. If it's not Edey getting the ball, then who is? I mean, Foster Moyer, okay. And Arizona's depth has been pretty evident this year to be one of the key factors. You mentioned it's a plus 1.5. I think that line goes down to 1. I think it may be a pick in tomorrow morning. So the fact that we're getting Arizona at plus money right now, potentially, obviously the lines have not officially come out for Arizona money line, but when they do come out, the fact that pretty much we are getting them at plus money, I will gladly take that. So Arizona money line tomorrow, I think they do win. And then the Colts going to Saturday afternoon as well. Look, the Steelers are the luckiest team in football. And I think their luck has just ran out, losing to the 2-10 Patriots, losing to the I think one of them was 2-10 and one of them was 2-11. Obviously, still 2-win teams at home, very very bad, and obviously their offense is going in the wrong direction, facing the Colts on the road, who have one of the better offenses right now with Gardner Minshew. And look, the Colts and Steelers are very much going in opposite directions. The Steelers were looking, playoff aspirations. They lose 2 in a row. The Colts, they were thinking, okay, maybe it's going to be just a year with Gardner Minshew until we get A. Rich back. They're 7-6 and now looking on the outside, not only on the playoff wild card race, but also, as you mentioned, the division. Obviously, the AFC South wide open now with the Jaguars, stumbling a little bit, and the Texans, now down potentially C.J. Stroud with that concussion protocol. So, I do like the Colts at home at minus 125. I think they get a job done against a Steelers offense that is pretty anemic right now, even without Matt Canada. I just think, the fact that they don't have Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky is not that guy. I think the Colts get the win at home. And then Sunday's pretty much game of the day, Bills, Cowboys. I like the Bills at home money line, minus 130 as well. You mentioned the Cowboys and their big win, obviously, against the Eagles. They finally beat their division rival. But this is a really bad spot for them. They don't play well on the road, 1. And then 2, outdoor as well. And 3, they're playing against a team that is fighting for their life. I would 100% fade the Cowboys in this spot. I think the Cowboys come off a little bit more relaxed. They look at the lead in the division. They don't – obviously, there's still plenty of games to go. But in terms of the schedules, from what I saw, the Eagles definitely have a lot more considerable easier schedule than the Cowboys, because I know the Cowboys, they got to play Buffalo and Miami. And I think one more difficult team. And then for the Eagles, I know they play the Giants twice, the Arizona Cardinals, and then the Seattle Seahawks, all under 500 teams. So I'm going to go with the Eagles potentially winning that division right now. But I know the Bills definitely need to fight for this, because obviously they got that big win last week, whether it was controversial or not with Tony being, 1 yard in front of the official line of scrimmage or whatnot. The Bills definitely need to carry that momentum back home this week, and I think they do that. Obviously you mentioned, the Bills' home field advantage, and obviously the weather may be playing a big factor. I just think the Bills are going to get the job done. I don't think the Cowboys, are going to be really competitive on the road. They haven't been. We see the numbers. Cowboys, one of the most dominant teams, if not, you can pretty much argue the Cowboys are the most dominant team at home. But on the road, we saw how they played against the Cowboys, how the Cowboys did against the Niners in San Francisco. We saw how the Cowboys did in Philly. And now they're going to go to Buffalo. Obviously, I just don't think it's a great spot for them. So give me those 3. I like those 3 as well. I think that's a 3-0 card for this weekend. I think mine is a 3-0 card for Saturday for college football. You can find all of these plays and more on our Twitter down below, AKP Sports Talk. We'll be having all of our cards posted for this weekend. Obviously, today's first, and then Later tonight, we'll be having Saturdays, which will include my college basketball and college football and NFL. I know we got a big weekend, people, along with Ari's weekend card as well. But that's going to do it for this episode of AKP Sports Talk. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is Ari. I'm Kurt. We'll be back Monday. Big Monday night game, Ari. You know, this is speaking of another team that needs to save their season. That's Monday night. Eagles and Seahawks will have that game for you, along with our other best bets for Monday. But we hope you guys have a fantastic weekend and win some money. That is Ari. I'm Kirill. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.